Hey guys, it's Carl, and I thought I'd create this cool little video on not only my workflow, but my entire creative process, how I create videos, I guess, from camera to what goes into the computers. And I know that I've been doing this for, close to a decade, and I think a lot of you ask what my creative process looks like. So I think this could be pretty cool. And just remember, I know that it's really daunting getting into the creative space. There is so much gear to collect over time, and if we actually take a look at my studio, I have collected a ton of this stuff over, like I said, 10 years. So don't get too daunted, don't get too discouraged. I started off with a simple point and shoot camera myself, and I wanted to kind of shout out 𝗦𝗱𝗱𝗶𝗹 because they're a great place to start, not only for creators, but if you're looking to get into gear itself. So 𝗦𝗱𝗱𝗶 cameras is one of the best places to buy used camera gear. And as an example, I'm recording right now with a Sony a7 Mark IV, two Sony a7S3s for my A cam and B cam. I get that that's expensive. And when you are entering the used camera market on 𝗦𝗱𝗱𝗶, you can actually find cameras for 40% off of their regular retail price. So there's a rating system that describes the condition of the gear, and all items are appraised, rated, and refurbished, and they even come with their own warranty. You can even trade in your own gear if you're looking to switch systems, and if I actually go onto their site right now, you can see that a Sony a7S III, that's selling for a couple $100 lower than what it costs new. So that's a fairly new camera, and if you're looking for anything a bit older than that, those discounts are actually way, way bigger. I'll leave a link down below in the description if you're interested, and if you are Team Sony, Team Canon, I know the camp is sometimes pretty divided. I think they've got you covered on all bases. So those are the main cameras that I record with, and for the lenses that I typically shoot on right now. So right now on the A cam we are 24-105. I think that is the money lens. That's one that I think I've said before, the one lens to rule them all, just because of the focal range, just because of the versatility. We also have the 70-200. I'm gonna wave to the B cam right there. That's part of the holy trinity of G Masters. I also have the 16-35 and the 24-70. So I know that kind of completes all of the different focal ranges, and all of the stuff that we shoot here in the studio can be done across these three ranges. And for the nice and crispy macro shots for all the product stuff, I know that we shoot a lot of tech. Shooting on this macro gets those really tight, really, really zoomed in shots. So I think if you have this entire lineup, I know, like I said, they're pricey. Hopefully you can find some used. You can pretty much achieve all the shots that we shoot here on the channel. And the B-roll shots that you see are typically shot in different areas in the studio. So this is actually one B-roll spot, and I think a lot of the other ones that you know is in the classic top-down area. And from those spots, I think we create the banger or fire shots that I think a lot of you know the aesthetic of the channel, which is pretty much what we try to achieve every single time to up the production value and to make the stuff that you guys watch as good looking as possible. So for shooting profiles, I know a lot of people do ask, we are shooting in S-Log3. I find that it just has the most dynamic range. I know that we're still fiddling around with LUTs and how everything looks. We actually just made that switch this year, so bear with me if the lighting hasn't been too consistent, or I guess the overall look. But what's nice, both of these, or I guess all three of these cameras shoot in S-Log3, and we can color grade them correctly on the computer, which we'll get to. So just as important as video, I think audio is a huge component as well. So we are recording right now. There's this little shotgun mic that just sits right over the top of frame. This is the Sennheiser 416 microphone. You can see that it's plugged in with XLR, loops all the way down to an audio interface, which is right off to the side. That's the Zoom H4n. Typically just another SD card plugs into the computer, and we line up the audio waveforms in post. And that's why at the beginning of every video, we do the classic audio clap. And the last thing quickly, which I think everyone asks, how I create this really bright and I guess like white set. It's really a simple combination of three lights. So the first one, an aperture 120D that just bounces light actually right off the ceiling to kind of give this nice fill light. We have this really large softbox off to the side. It's the biggest one that I could buy off of Amazon, and just a little key light on the back to create some depth. That's just actually a little ring light that I got from Elgato actually, and big props to ring lights. I know that people give them flack all the time, but they achieved that little purpose for me. After we're done shooting on our A and B cams, all of that footage just gets pumped straight into the camera. So typically the 𝗦𝗦𝗱𝗏 memory cards just go straight into either the MacBook Pro. So right here, I've got the 16-inch with the M1 Max chip. There's also the editing rig on the other side, right behind this camera actually, where we have a Mac Studio. I typically prefer working off a laptop. I like the versatility. I can stick it into my backpack when I go back home. Link is pretty happy to see me most of the time, and he kind of just sits between my legs. I can edit on my couch, which is great. And I will say though, one thing about these MacBooks, the SD card slot, I would say maybe works half the time. Typically, I actually have to use a dongle. I typically use this one from 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and I actually had this pre-SD card MacBook when all of the MacBook Pros, you still had to live the dongle life. So I live it half the time still, if that's a thing. And from there, all the footage sadly just ends up onto my desktop. So that's the #1 thing I'm looking to improve. My workflow for storage is the absolute worst. If we actually just take a look at my desktop right now, it's pretty much a shit show. I wait for it to kind of fill up and then I go on my monthly purge. It's one of my guilty tech pleasures. It is what it is. So once the footage is on the computer, it makes its way into the actual Final Cut timeline, and that's where I guess the main editing or chopping begins. I will say for my computer, the two most used apps that I have, like I mentioned, Final Cut, and weirdly enough, Outlook. So I am on my computer mostly for editing and managing, I guess, the channel with brand deals. So those are the two most used apps, I would say, 60, kind of 40%. And just two extra little ones that I use for productivity. They're simple because they're built into every single Mac. They're both notes and reminders. I am a stickler for the ease of use, and both of those I can airdrop to, say, Nick, any other people that are helping me out with any of the shots that we're using. I can create checklists, I can create storyboards. They're easy to share, and I use them across every one of my devices, from my iPhone to my iPad to my Mac. Simple, easy. I'm all about it. And within Final Cut, there's a couple little handy tools and plugins that I use. So when I'm actually chopping those clips, the transitions are from Motion VFX. They're really simple drag and drop transitions that you can use. There's hundreds that you can download, and even for simple things like color grading the S-Log footage and creating basic color LUTs, they have pretty much everything. Once again, all drag and drop, all super simple to use. And myself, I'm not a video creator by trade. I learned how to do it watching YouTube videos, and my technical knowledge is pretty limited. So I found them really easy to use. I'll leave a link that you can check them out. I don't get anything extra from that. And once that video is done, the great thing about Final Cut, I think the export times is one of the key reasons why I'm on it over, say, Premiere Pro. I can have that video exported in maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then I can just start the upload process to YouTube. Have to enter all the things like tags, titles, obviously working on the thumbnail is a huge component. So yeah, that's pretty much the start to finish process of video creation, to the setup, to the gear that I use, to the final video that you guys are watching right now. And one little thing that I think most people don't realize when they watch this video, however long it is, 5, 10, 15 minutes, it takes way longer to create that than those 15 minutes. A lot of work goes into set planning, into shooting B-roll, into obviously editing, hours and hours. So I hope you guys just enjoyed this. I hope this video was a bit insightful. And remember, for all the gear that you're picking up, you don't have to buy new, you can buy stuff used. People like myself take really good care of their gear, and one day when I upgrade to my next system, I wanna see this find life in someone else's hands. So if you want, remember 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 camera, links down below, grab your gear used and still affordable and still in great condition. And I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.